keep thinking about Rolla being gone. I know how much you love that boy. You okay, Ghost?
Now, what was Ghost's biggest mistake in Power? This is a question that will have a lot of mixed answers from Rolla, Angela Valdez, Tasha St. Patrick, his relationship with Tariq, thinking he could live a double life, and so many more. So I do want you guys to get in the comment section and let me know what you think. What was Ghost's biggest mistake back in Power? Now, I put a post up on X not too long ago and I said, this was Ghost's big first mistake, killing Rolla. Don't get it twisted, I do think Ghost made plenty more throughout the series, but his first big mistake in season 1, in my opinion, was killing the boy he raised in the streets, getting rid of the one person who would have seen straight through Kanan's games, the one person who would have backed Ghost and stayed loyal right to the end. They say there are no friends on the street, but Rolla was. When we look at who Ghost was as a character, he was articulate, intelligent, he had a certain swagger about him which allowed him to not only be feared in the streets as a ghost, but also allowed him to brush shoulders with the elite in the real world. He was a calculated chess player, always thinking outside the box, thinking 3 moves ahead of his enemies, even if it was just those trying to muscle their way into the nightlife industry to those who held a gun to his head in the streets. Ghost was someone who liked to be in control over every single situation. He remained calm under pressure, majority of the time. He knew when to attack or when to be patient, sit back and not let his emotions take over. He also never really used to reveal the full plan or his true intentions to even his right-hand man and his brother. He liked to have power and control. And I've recently been watching Prison Break and I did kind of see a lot of the same characteristics from Michael Scofield. Now in Prison Break, there is also another character named Poseidon, aka Jacob, who did also actually play Stephen Ott from the DNC in Ghost. And I am going to play you a quote from Poseidon, because when he said this, I thought of not just Ghost, but also Kanan, and that specific tweet in regards to Ghost's first big mistake.
Yeah, the secret to real power is to never betray your intentions, to wear nothing on your sleeve, and to never let anyone see your face.
Now, what he means by keeping your intentions hidden, which is one of the 48 laws of power, concealing your intentions, it can give you real power. The kind of short explanation is basically, by not revealing your hand, by hiding your intentions, it can help you keep 3 steps ahead. It can help people avoid reacting to your plans, because if you were to reveal your plans too soon, your enemy can come up with something to kind of stop you, or come up with a counter, or basically put measures in place and basically make sure they kind of remain in control over that particular chessboard. And that's going to be the particular theme of the rest of this breakdown, as we look into Ghost's first big mistake in Power, Kanan's manipulation, and how he controlled the chessboard early on. How things could have turned out very different if Ghost hadn't had killed Rolla, but how this changed the dynamics of power going forward, along with of course a theory or two based on actual logical facts, findings, and evidence.
Ghost, you dumb motherfucker. Anybody know he did it?
Not yet.
Well, we know 2 things. 1, Ghost trusts me. And 2, he's all alone now. Just got Tommy. And that boy way too dumb to see what's coming.
Now, the build-up to Rolla's death played a really crucial role in the mistake that Ghost made back in Power. Kanan knew how he ended up in prison. He knew it wasn't a coincidence. After all, he said it himself when he met Ghost after he was released. Why wouldn't Rolla want to take out the boss? It's the same shit he did to Breeze. And Kanan knew it was exactly the same shit Ghost did to him 10 years ago. I mean, now that we're on the point of Ghost sending Kanan to prison, you could even argue that that was a huge mistake in itself. Should Ghost have killed Kanan 10 years prior?
This doesn't have anything to do with you nor me. It's about Tariq and motherfucking Kanan.
Well, we wouldn't be talking about motherfucking Kanan if you killed him 10 years ago, like I told you to.
Tasha was definitely right. He should have got rid of Kanan when he had the chance, because you don't keep someone as manipulative as Kanan around. We've seen what Rock's capable of in Raising Kanan, and this is Rock's blood, characteristics, and manipulation running through Kanan's ice-cold veins. And we haven't even reached the tip of the iceberg when it comes to Raising Kanan, but this is one of the greatest chess players on Power. I mentioned at the beginning about Ghost being able to keep his emotions in check for 90% of his time on Power, but so did Kanan. Kanan sat patiently in prison for 10 years, just waiting for his opportunity to get back at Ghost. Every day he sat in his small room where many would go crazy, but not Kanan. He stayed calm, patient, continued to gain Ghost's trust, and attacked at the right moment. And that would have taken a lot of restraint, patience, and calmness from someone like Kanan. He would have visioned hurting Ghost 1,000 different ways, but he knew the best possible move that he could make in that particular situation was to just sit and be calm. I mean, who remembers Bruce Lee's fight in Enter the Dragon? He found himself trapped with no escape, but he didn't waste his energy mentally or physically. He knew the best thing for him to do in that moment was to just remain calm. And that's what Kanan did for 10 years while he was in prison. And that's why he was going to be even more dangerous when the time came. So aside from Rolla, I do think if you look at history, we can even go as far as to 10 years prior to Power and say this was a huge mistake in itself. Kanan was way too dangerous to keep around. But he did. He didn't kill Kanan, and at the beginning of Power, we found ourselves here. Ghost's organization was being hit from all directions across Season 1. Liliana was slashed in the elevator, his careers were being targeted, they were being robbed and had to shut down the entire operation for a brief period, where it was said that they were losing $25,000 an hour. They initially had eyes on Annibal, who at the time was a leader of the Hermanos Taínos, but the minute Pink Sneakers took care of him, they had to go back to the drawing board. Ghost was under extreme pressure to deliver results, especially from Felipe Lobos. The longer his organization was being hit, the longer he had to keep his pipeline close to his Primeras, and in turn, it wasn't just hurting his pockets, it was also hurting his business relationships. Now here's where Kanan played the perfect chess game. He was creating absolute chaos for within Ghost's organization, all while sitting in his cell. He was playing chess while everybody else was playing checkers, and he almost pulled it off.
Shit, I ain't getting a message like this since.
The Trenton beef. Well, you guided me right then, man, and I need you here now.
So what you need? They said Rolla took a trip down there about a month ago. Met up with his brothers down there. They introduced him to a Latin girl. Hot piece of ass. They say no way around the night. Bitch wear these crazy ass pink sneakers everywhere she go.
What Kanan did over the years was really smart and intentional. He knew Ghost was behind him being in prison, but he never let Ghost know. He kept his cards really close to his chest, and even helped him when he needed help with the Trenton beef. Now what that did for Ghost was, it reaffirmed that Kanan had no idea that he set him up, and Ghost still thought that he could trust and approach his former mentor for help, which again was a huge mistake. Ghost still thought he could trust Kanan. Out of all people, he thought he could trust Kanan Stark. If he asked his wife Tasha, I think she would have told him exactly what he needed to hear. Now for Kanan, by convincing him that it was Rolla, he knew Ghost had his full trust, all while simultaneously having Ghost take out someone who would have been a very strong ally, who would have also been opposed to Kanan as soon as he was released. He was weakening Ghost's position, and I also feel Kanan probably had a bit of hatred for Rolla and the RSKs because they were operating on Kanan's old stomping ground in Queens, so maybe he also wanted his territory back. Kanan played the perfect game. Pink Sneakers just couldn't execute towards the end of Season 1. Otherwise, Ghost would have been gone, Tommy would have put even more trust and faith in Kanan. Kanan may then have potentially taken Tommy out too, because he went to know Tommy wasn't involved in his setup 10 years prior. He would have had Ghost's entire organization and he would have been back on his throne. Now just before we get to that famous Ghost and Rolla scene, we also can't underestimate the role of Tommy Egan. He gave Ghost no choice but to get rid of Rolla. I don't think he ever liked Rolla anyway, but because of the beef between the Soldado Nation and the RSKs, them needed to get Ruiz's crew on board. Ghost felt as if he had no choice. I mean, Tommy gave him no choice anyway. He said either Ghost gets rid of Rolla or he will. But on this really powerful scene, first off, I really love the way they kind of did this. For me, it is one of the top 3 scenes of all time in Power. It was dark. The moment Rolla opened his fridge door, Ghost was just kind of sat there waiting, just like a ghost. It was emotional. We knew what was coming, Rolla knew what was coming, Ghost knew what he had to do, but we were still sat waiting for whether Ghost could be kind of convinced, because the truth is, deep down, Ghost still didn't believe it was Rolla. Deep down, he knew he was making a huge mistake.
I'm offering you a chance to come clean.
Nah, that ain't it. You offered me a chance to convince you. Okay, I'll play along. So, you saying I hit your shipment, kill fat ass Annabelle, I stab Ruiz, and what else I do?
A few weeks ago, you had a courier of mine jump a woman.
God damn. I've been a busy motherfucker.
Rolla also knew Kanan was the one who was behind why Ghost was really here, and he did ask all the right questions.
It's Kanan, right? You and that crazy motherfucker still tight after all these years. Shit, you trust him more than anybody. Even Tommy. Question is, G, what the fuck do he gain from pointing you in my direction?
You don't gain a motherfucking anything.
What would Kanan stand to gain if Ghost was to take out Rolla? Just like we questioned many times before, what did Ghost gain when he got rid of Kanan? What did Kanan gain when Ghost and Tommy got rid of Breeze? I still feel the way Kanan was able to manipulate Ghost into getting rid of Rolla was the same way he was able to manipulate him into getting rid of Breeze. in Power Origins, I think we're going to see history repeat itself, or well, a lot of the scenes in Power will make even more sense, which is why they really have to nail the small nuggets in Power Origins, especially between this whole situation between Kanan, Ghost and Breeze. But on Ghost and Rolla, you could really see it on Ghost's face. If you truly believe Rolla was the one who was behind the hits, he wouldn't have even got the opportunity to sit down. Ghost definitely knew it wasn't Rolla, he just didn't have a choice because if he didn't deal with the situation, Tommy would have got involved and the soldados would have also been ready to go to war. Now let's just flip the script. What if Rolla did actually survive? What if for some reason he was able to convince Ghost that it wasn't him? How would that have altered and changed Power going forward? Well, firstly, Kanan wouldn't have been able to manipulate the situation around Ghost as much as he was able to do, because Ghost would have been aware and on board with Rolla's thought process. They would have done some more digging, had Julio reach out to his connects and got to the bottom of who was really behind the hits. It was also said there were some set of Miami RSKs, they could have also got involved and found the hitter from Miami, but Kanan would have had to approach the situation in a slightly different manner. I think Kanan's best bet would have been to play between Tommy and Ghost, turn Tommy against Ghost, convincing him that it was Rolla, convincing him that Ghost had been lying to him for all these years.
The Ghost got you believing you can't do nothing without it.
He was always feeding these things to Tommy, but in this alternative scenario, with Ghost not killing Rolla, and Kanan now out of prison, the original boss, someone who Tommy clearly loved as well, you could see Kanan really turning the screw, where he then breaks the organization from the top, which would have naturally trickled down to the Primeras. Rolla and Julio would have obviously stayed loyal to Ghost, no doubts about Julio. I don't think he would have worked well with Kanan and Tommy anyway, and Ghost was the one who actually gave him his big break. He was the one who released Julio from the Toros Locos gang. I think on one side, you'd have Ghost, Rolla, and Julio. On the other side, you'd have Kanan, Tommy, and Dre. With crews such as the Soldado Nation, they never really were kind of fond of the RSKs, even though Ruiz and Ghost had a lot of respect for each other. So that would have definitely kind of caused a wedge and maybe swayed Ruiz over to Kanan, Tommy, and Dre's side. The boys in Jersey were kind of said to be Tommy's people, and Cristobal, who would have been the leader of the Hermanos Taínos after Anibal's death, kind of 50-50 in terms of who he would have swayed to, but you can see how it would have torn this entire organization straight down the middle, because you tear apart the leadership at the top, which is Ghost and Tommy. Now later on, if they were ever to lose a big player such as Dre, or we see a face-off like we saw with Ghost vs Kanan in Season 2, maybe that's when you kind of bring in Jukebox. That's when they could have kind of started inflicting damage with Tariq, which would have definitely caused an internal conflict between Tommy and Kanan, because I don't think Tommy would have been happy with them kind of targeting Tariq and using his nephew as bait.
You stop fucking with Tariq, and you and me, we cool.
Now that's probably the situation which could have made Tommy actually think, hold up a sec, I can't actually back Kanan on this one, along with maybe finding out Kanan was actually the one who was fucking with their operation after all. That's something that could have actually turned their relationship upside down, with Tommy finally realizing Ghost and Rolla were right after all. And it is kind of fun to just kind of talk about alternative scenarios, because we can really be creative as we want with our own thought process based on our own perceptions and opinions, especially because we all watch Power differently. I ran through a different Power Book 2 Go storyline where Dre would have been kind of the main villain, and this is how I would have seen Power, I guess, Season 2 onwards, how it would have been completely different if Rolla had survived. Of course, there are other factors you would have to consider such as Sean, Tasha, and everybody else, but let me know if you want me to go deeper and actually create a synopsis like I did before. I really did enjoy making King Dre. But back to the point about whether this was Ghost's biggest mistake. I do think I was right in saying this was his first big mistake, specifically on Power. I do think there were many across Season 1, many across Season 2, 3, and so on. But killing Rolla really weakened his position and put Kanan in control all the way from prison. He got rid of someone who would have been extremely loyal to Ghost, which weakened him and made Kanan realize Ghost still trusts him. It also made him turn to alcohol again. I say again because it was hinted that he may potentially have had a drinking problem in the past.
Ghost is plotting something against Milan, and he's fucking drinking again. Call me back.
Corny Kemp also mentioned that she originally wrote the pilot to be where Ghost was a recovering alcoholic, but it made him turn to alcohol again. He lost a crucial ally, and someone who would have been extremely loyal, a boy that he raised in the streets, someone that Tasha said he loved. The way you saw Ghost and Rolla just kind of walking down the streets, you could just tell Ghost felt really comfortable with Rolla back at home. You could tell that these two had a lot of history and would have had a lot of memories together. Maybe something we do see in Origins, the formation of the RSKs. Maybe we do see Rolla, or an older relative who was the one who actually started the RSKs, the original head honcho. Like I mentioned before, the RSKs eventually took over Kanan's old territory, so was there any beef between them back in the day in the 90s with one of their old leaders of the RSKs? Is there any history here? Because we do know there are a set of New York RSKs, and they aren't the only ones. Again, I'm going to come back to that in a separate video. Let's see if they kind of tap into this in Power Origins, and I'm sure Sasha Penn will be watching Power as closely as we are, for all the little conversations that they spoke about the past.
Sup, M? I told you to stop it with that shit.
Just very small things like Rolla calling Tommy M. If there is a younger version of Rolla, we need to see the young Rolla teasing Tommy and calling him M and making a joke or two in Power Origins. That's only if they are planning to bring in a younger version of Rolla, which I do hope they do at some point. But this, in my opinion, was Ghost's first big mistake in Power, because it was a catalyst which put Kanan in control. So the floor is now yours. Drop all your thoughts down below in the comment section and let me know what you think was Ghost's biggest mistake back in Power. And as always, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.